into it and it will be just whatever it is. It's all good.
Okay.
So, hi everyone. It is Kylie Etz here today, and I have the pleasure of talking to Nadda. And Nadda and I have had a few interviews already together, so it's always nice to chat with her. But today she's coming on specifically to talk a little bit more about her experience as a speech and language pathologist in my Babies at Play Running Mom and Baby Classes Made Easy course. So first of all, welcome, Nadda. And
thank you.
Yeah, it's so lovely to have you here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what your background is as a speech language pathologist and sort of what made you have interest in taking this course?
Yeah, so I am an early intervention speech language pathologist. My background is working with families, parents of littles birth to 3 years, and I have been going into the homes, working with parents, really just diving in, just doing all the daily routines and helping them help their littles learn how to talk and play in their natural everyday environments. And so I really feel passionately about starting early with our little ones, even if your little one doesn't have a language delay. I think a lot of parents don't really understand what all these communication milestones are, even if they're communication milestones or physical milestones or social emotional milestones too. And so I feel like the biggest work that I want to work on is like prevention and getting that education out there in a natural way where parents can connect with each other and share their experiences together, but also be playing together too and not feel so stressed about it all. And so I really wanted to create a class where parents could come together and not feel so stressed about, okay, like I have to read the book to figure all these things out, because I know my sister just had a baby and she was like, if I open that book, I'm just going to be like, okay, we have to work on this skill, but it doesn't have to be like that. We can just enjoy our little ones, but also know like we're heading in the right direction too.
Yeah, I just love that so much in terms of like the prevention part of it and knowing what is normal. Yeah. And this is, I think, one of the big things that is missing in our society these days is this service for moms and caregivers that have typically developing babies. And they're still so overwhelmed because they don't actually know what to expect. They don't know what is normal. And it's almost like, when you have a child that has various delays and you're qualifying for early intervention, it's a little bit different because you're already on like the radar and you've got all of the services in place and you have a coordinator and you have all these people that are in your life telling you all of, how to play and how to engage and how to interact. But when you have a baby who's typically developing and doesn't have any delays necessarily, you're kind of like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. And
you don't
even
have
from
the same, parenting coaches.
Yeah. And even from my mom friends, they always are asking me like, is it normal for them to eat this food? Or is it normal for them to be crawling like this? Or is it normal for them to make this sound? And they're just not so sure what normal looks like. And so I just think it's important for us to just talk about what normal is, because that's amazing question for all of us.
Yes. And it really does help to reduce some of that stress and that overwhelm. So can you tell us a little bit about, how you found the Babies at Play course, and also what kind of made you decide like, yes, this is like, I want this?
So I had been looking into lots of different programs. So I have a background in, I took a training in speech. I took a training in doing yoga. It was a certification for teaching yoga through like a speech lens to incorporate yoga and speech therapy. And so I started looking at, okay, what about trying to do yoga, incorporating yoga into my classes. And so there are lots of certifications out there for like kids yoga and stuff. And so I was like, okay, maybe there's a baby yoga class and I can take a class like that and do my own like speech and language spin on that, because I know there's so many benefits on like baby massage and mommy prenatal yoga. So I started going down that path and I was like, okay, this is starting to get like really broad and not quite what I was looking for. But then I connected with an occupational therapist who took your course, and she raved about it. And so I was like, okay, let me do some more research. And so when I looked on your course, I was like, okay, this is an occupational therapist, and I love collaborating with other occupational therapists who I work with in my field. And so when I started to look more into your class, I just saw that there were so many areas that you covered, from attachment to sleep to all the pain points that every mom, I feel like, experiences. And you seamlessly, it appeared to me when I was just looking, that we seamlessly can like incorporate it into this 1 hour class that we can teach moms and their babies and be able to connect. And so I was like, oh, wow, I need this in my life, because I had been trying to plan my own class, being like, okay, how do I structure an hour class where I want to cover all of these different topics, but also play and also talk and do all of these things together. And so, I was like, I'm just going to dive in and learn all the things, because I already was interested in learning more about sleep. And so I enrolled in your course, and then 3 weeks later I was done. And I was like, all right, I'm ready.
Awesome. So can you tell us a little bit more about what, like when you were doing the course, what did you like about it? And also like coming from that speech language lens, because you know, at first glance, potentially my course does, like, I'm an occupational therapist, and like, you know, I'm really honing in on like the infant development and like the mama pain points. We definitely do talk a little bit about language, but I don't have the same expertise as you do. And so like when you were going through the course, did you have the feeling of like, oh yeah, okay, I can totally apply this. I can totally, you know, like intermix it with my training as a speech language pathologist? What were your sort of thoughts while you were going through the course?
I have to say I learned so much from the OT lens that I had no idea about. I mean, I feel like, I definitely did not learn anything that you talked about, from like the push pull, all of the motor milestones and things you discussed. I never learned about it from any of the trainings I have done. So that was just so eye-opening, because I get parents asking me, whenever I do therapy, parents just think that I know everything, and I'm like, I really don't. But we're expected to know all of these things. So I just think that it was just really nice to have that new lens of perspective of being able to actually talk about that area of development. But yes, now I'm able to talk about that, but then add language to when your child is doing this or rolling in these different positions. And when we are practicing these skills of, you know, when you were talking about like doing both sides of their body movement, how we can add language and songs to that, and how it's so good for their language development. And they need that to learn to understand how their body is moving in space, right? But then we can add words to help them understand what their body is doing. And so it was just a really great way to integrate both areas. And I think that sometimes it can be, feels really unnatural to think about them as things that connect with each other. So that was really great to see and do. And I think that all of these areas, even though they were like separate topics, they all go together, right? So for example, sleep, right? We know how important sleep is, but sleep is so important for our memory and our emotion regulation and our cognition. And without that, we may have a more difficult time like coordinating our body movements and communicating all of our emotions and interacting with others. And so if we can't get all that sleep together, then it'll be really hard to communicate, and really hard to regulate all the other parts of our systems. And so having all of that in order was really helpful to know that we can talk about all these things together. I don't know.
Great. Thank you. No, that's wonderful. Thank you.
I think it was really helpful to see examples too. Those video examples that we got to see of the course too, like seeing it in action was really helpful. I haven't been able to run a group in person yet, which is sad due to COVID. But
it will happen. It will happen.
So I definitely feel like I've had to modify the way that I envisioned the class to be. And also just hearing from what parents wanted right now, I have modified it a little bit. I ran a course or a series, but I did a 4-week series because that's what parents asked for the summer.
Yeah.
So I did a 4-week series. Sorry, you want me to describe?
No, talk about,
Okay.
yeah, I want to hear about your 4-week series, because this is the beauty of the course, is that yes, the course teaches you a 6-week series, because that's just what I found has been like a good series for my comfort level in terms of like giving the information I want to give, not overwhelming. But at the same time, I've also had parents that are like, do you do 4 weeks? I've also had a parent who asked to do like just like ongoing, like
and
8, 10, 12 weeks.
End of my series, at the end of the series, I sent out a survey, and the parents said like the summertime 4 weeks would be great, but during the year 6 weeks would be great too. So I think just like depending on the time of year and like during this weird time, what parents need can vary. But so I did the 4-week series, and parents wanted like to learn songs that were related to their development and communication. And so, but they also wanted like a lot of time to talk about their pain points that they're going through right now. So that middle part of the class, I didn't do as many movement activities that were incorporated during that you had outlined in the class. So, what I started as was like, we would talk about our pain points, wonders of the week. And then we did our hello song. And during that time, that's when I would like really bring my speech side out. And I would talk about like the importance of singing and attaching like our gestures and communicating with our words. And then we would do our like massage and song. And each week I would change that song. So I would change the song every week, and I love music and using music. So I talked about music and language development, and I would change the songs every week with that. And then we would do a topic every week. So for the 4 weeks, I did communication development, I did sleep, feeding, we talked about baby-led weaning for feeding. And then our last week, what did we do? Sleep, feeding, baby-led weaning, and communication development. Yeah, that's far.
That's good. Bring in the speech there.
Yeah, of course, right? Can't forget that. And then we ended with our like a circle dance. So I did another song that related to the topic of the week. Awesome. So I would do like a song related to sleep, how we could do like a calm down song that would help wind them down. I did a song related to feeding, how you can add that into your meal time, and how you can add language or signs and gestures to your meals. I did another type of, talked about like good morning or good night rituals that you can do with your little ones to improve communication. So I just added those little spins of speech and language into my class. And then we ended with mantras and affirmation cards with our class.
Love it.
So that's kind of how my class went. Whereas I feel like if I was in person, I would definitely do that more hands-on activities with the group. But I don't know, I feel like lots of my parents are asking for like more support group type than the hands-on. So I think I'm trying to find a balance whether, and this group was with like 6 to 8 months was the range of the kids in the class. So
which is great, because it's right around that time when they actually start vocalizing and like realizing that they have the purposeful ability to voluntarily make all of these sounds.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to figure out, I guess, what parents need the most. Like, should I have a group that is parent support group? And then for the older kids, is that what I do where it's more hands-on and active with them? And I think that may be, for me as an SLP, that's like what I'm seeing, like all these parents are like, okay, well, I want something that I can see where we do it in action with them. And for the little ones, maybe more support group like, because these are new parents who are just wanting all this information and wanting to connect and see are other parents going through the same thing as them?
Right.
Are they struggling with breastfeeding and feeding in general? Are they having sleepless nights too?
Yeah. Oh, I just love it. And so if you had any words of advice, let's just say, so we've heard a little bit about your experience in terms of what you were doing before the program, how you found the program, what you thought of the program, and a little bit also about how you actually took the program and made it your own. If you had any kind of like tips or advice or anything to give to, let's say, even someone that was like thinking about whether this program would be like a good fit for them, what would you say? Do you have anything to kind of like say to them?
Yeah, I think I would say, like, if you feel that you have no idea where to start, like, this is a really good place to start. It's a very supportive group of professionals who are wanting to help each other grow their own businesses and have lots of advice for you, whether we want to help each other grow in our own businesses, and see each other prosper together, right? And also there are so many different areas that we cover, and we want to just help other moms and parents find support with each other. And so I think like this is just a really wonderful place to start if you're looking for that kind of support.
Thank you so much for all of those kind words, but also for like speaking truth and telling people about your experience in the program, because I think it's really good to hear other participants and how they're liking the program, but also other professionals that are not OTs necessarily, to hear how they're able to adapt the program into their own needs and their own specialty, versus just me saying like, oh yeah, this is like the best program ever, right?
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point. That's such a good point too, that like this is such a new lens for me to see it from an OT's perspective. And I think that especially in our field, we don't get that ever. We only have to do continuing education credit, like CEUs from the SLP world, and to be able to support our families from this lens too has been really helpful, because I see families who have children with motor difficulties, and my families are expecting me to help them in that area, and even from the really young age. And so now I do feel better equipped to talk to these families and help them in this area, even if it's very little, from helping them know that, okay, we have to be supporting both sides of the brain, right? And getting them moving in those ways. So
thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. And for everybody watching, I will put the links underneath this video in terms of finding more details about the program and also registration. So thank you again. And it was lovely to have you.
Thank you.
Bye for now, everyone. Let's see how I stop this thing. Here we go.